Welcome to another episode of Boom or Bust, the draft show. I'm Max Chadwick alongside PJ Clark and Tate Sigworth. Now welcoming on another very special guest, Trevor Sikkema, who's a senior NFL writer at the Draft Network and co-host of the Locked On NFL Draft podcast. Our good friend Jon Ledyard from Pewter Report challenged you, Trevor, to our draft trivia game. Thanks so much for coming on, though, man.
Yeah, guys, thank you for having me. I'm very excited. I went back and I watched Jon's episode with you guys, and when we get to the trivia portion, I'm gonna give him a little bit of crap, but I'm very excited to be here with you guys. Seems like a lot of fun.
I love it. So Jon, Mike Renner, and Austin Gale from PFF all scored 3 out of 5 on our trivia game. We'll see if you can beat them, but first I'm going to ask you some questions. So first off, not football related at all, but congratulations, man, because you're Tampa Bay Lightning, Eastern Conference champions for the second time in 5 years. How pumped are you? And do you think that they'll lift that Stanley Cup trophy against the Stars?
I hope, man. You know, back in 2015 when they made the Stanley Cup against the Chicago Blackhawks, they ran into a machine. Like, the Blackhawks were the best team in hockey, and Tampa got there, and they were, I don't want to say lucky, because it makes it seem like anytime I say lucky for anything, it makes it seem like the guys didn't work for it, but they did. They were just young. They weren't ready. You know, like Stamkos is super young. Kucherov was young. The triplets line was young. They didn't even have Vasilevsky starting. He was the backup to Ben Bishop, and so they weren't ready in 2015. They've had some unfortunate injuries. Obviously, they also had the greatest choke job in sports history last year. Don't worry, I will bring it up. You guys don't have to. So this is kind of like the revenge tour. I've likened this year for the Lightning to the Virginia Cavaliers when they got bounced from a 16 seed 3 years ago, and then the year after they won it all. So I've been hoping that they are the Virginia Cavaliers of hockey. So I'm very excited.
I am a diehard New York Ranger fan. I'm very familiar with that 2015 team, but I do just have to, thank you for getting the Islanders up out of there last night. Big for me. And 2, go get Ryan McDonough a Stanley Cup, please.
Is there a big hatred between the New York teams? I always wonder this, the Jets and the Giants, Yankees, Mets, and then I just wonder, is there this big rivalry?
No, it's big, and I think it's especially worse. I'm from Long Island, so I'm in the minority of Ranger fans from Long Island, and games at the Coliseum especially so heated, and there was a lot of back and forth last night between the Ranger fans and the Islander fans. So I was very happy to see the result of last night's game.
Yeah, I would love to get Ryan McDonough a cup. I wish so badly that Callahan was still on the team, because I would have loved to give Callahan a cup too. That's
my favorite player ever, man. You and me both.
Dude, Callahan's the man. I was so sad when we couldn't get him a cup those years that he was there. But hopefully we get McDonough one.
All right, so moving on to football, since we are here to talk about football at the end of the day.
We're having a little fun.
Wait, we're talking about football? I'm out of here. I'm done.
Shocking.
Thank you for having me.
This isn't a hockey podcast. Not yet, at least. So the big college football news. I'm sure we all saw it. Sure, all of our viewers saw it. The Big Ten returning, coming back in October. Huge for some people, some draft stocks and the prospects. So people opted out. Rashad Bateman's coming back potentially. Shaun Wade is confirmed coming back. Wyatt Davis. What Big Ten prospects do you think needed this season the most?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when I looked at the Big Ten specifically, this year really sucked for a lot of those prospects, because it felt like there were a lot of really good athletes coming from the Big Ten. Like Penn State's got a ton of great athletes. They always do. That's the best training program in the country. Y'all, I don't know what y'all are feeding those boys up there, but
steroids.
Y'all have got some straight athletes up there. Parsons, Micah Parsons didn't really need to show anything. I mean, he was pretty good. Although I will say, he came on big at the end of the year last year, and I would have liked to see him just really continue to dominate in this season. So he's not coming back. There's no real need. But Jason Owa, the edge rusher there, he's another athletic freak. I mean, he could have been a guy who could have really raised his stock. I mean, I'm saying could have in the past. Now the Big Ten's happening. He really can. Kwity Paye from Michigan's another one. Michigan had a couple of athletes. Adrian Hutchinson, he's on the defensive line there as well. And these are guys who I felt like had really good potential pro profiles. And we just hadn't seen it all come together for these guys yet. And this year was going to be really important for them. And I was super bummed when the Big Ten said that they weren't going to play for a lot of different reasons. Ohio State had Brandon Browning, the linebacker. He's another crazy athlete who was just we didn't see a ton. Obviously, Shaun Wade is a guy who it's great athlete, former 5-star player. We think he's going to be a shutdown corner at the NFL level, but he was playing behind 2 future first-rounders in Damon Arnett and Jeff Okudah, so he just didn't play on the outside last year. We sit here and we go like, oh, okay, like we know Shaun Wade is good, but we barely seen him play on the outside. So that was going to be a big bummer. Those are just some that kind of really pop into my head. Rashawn Slater's another one from Northwestern. Now that I'm just like continuing to think about it, guys who I would have loved to see get another year, because these are guys who, all of the guys that I named here, could be potential top 50 guys. I even had Journey Brown as my RB2 going into the year.
There you go.
I mean, like, Journey's a freak athlete, dude.
Hop
but like
on that train, man. Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
He needs more snaps to him. He needs the whole. He's got to get the vision part down. He's got to get the nuance of playing more. He needs more snaps, and really, just for a lot of those guys, it's a reason. You know, like Wyatt Davis, he's already opted out. We don't really need to see a lot more of Wyatt Davis. He's a monster. He's a people mover. Don't need more than that. Micah Parsons is another one where we really didn't need to see a ton more. Rashad Bateman, I hope he gets to come back because he wants to come back. I mean, like, that would be really cool. But in all honesty, Rashad Bateman had a hell of a year. I mean, he could just go, and we know what he's going to be in the NFL as a wide receiver. So those are a handful of guys that kind of come to my mind. I'm excited that the Big Ten gets to play. Hopefully, you know, they're doing things obviously the right way, handling it the right way with everything going on in the pandemic. I was one of the people that's like, hey, should we even be having football at all this year? And so now that, I mean, like, that it's happening and it's really out of our hands, you're just hoping that they are handling things as well as they possibly can when it comes to the safety of these guys with the travel and all that. So we will see. We will see. I know a lot of these guys are excited to play.
So going off of that now that every conference, major conference at least, but the Pac-12, who are some under the radar guys that it's very early on in this season, but you're already looking out for in the 2021 draft?
The one guy, when you say that really pops out into my head, Chaz Surratt is one of them, the linebacker from UNC. He is a former quarterback. He played quarterback in high school. And so I love when guys come from different backgrounds, whether it is the stereotypical tight end who used to play basketball or something like that, quarterback who used to play baseball. I love that because I feel like that allows me to look at their tape through a lens of a natural athlete. And when I watched Chaz Surratt in this linebacker group with UNC, he's only been playing the position for 2 years is really what we saw in 2019. And you could just tell the way he was approaching coverage and defense, he was doing it from a quarterback's perspective. Like, hey, I've been in the quarterback's shoes. I know exactly what he's about to do. If we're playing this kind of defense, well, I already know what I would have thought as a quarterback going up against this kind of defense. So you almost see him like one step ahead. So that's another guy where I loved his brother too. I loved Sage out of Wake Forest, but he opted out as well. Those are a couple of guys that I was really interested in, and I'm glad that they're getting another year. Jay Tufele might have been the number one player for me in this category. He's a defensive tackle out of USC, because when I popped on his tape, when I looked at Tufele, I was like, this guy moves at a different speed than everybody else. He's 6'3", 215 pounds. And he's just like, those flashes are like, you are not supposed to be this explosive at this size. And I feel like we have a handful of those guys every single year. The NFL, some teams really covet them. Sometimes they go really high in the draft. But like, Tufele was a player who had those flashes, but they were truly just flashes. I think that gets thrown around a lot where it's like, we just use like the term inconsistency. You're like, oh, he flashes, blah, blah, blah. But like sometimes it's a lot more intricate than that. This guy really was like, we'd see brilliance and then you get lost. And you wonder, like, where is the middle ground? You got to be a little bit more consistent there. Tufele is a player who I think could be a top 20 pick. Pac-12 is still not playing at this point, and he opted out. So I'm not sure we're going to see him again. But right off the bat, when you ask that question, Surratt and then Jay Tufele are two dudes who I'm really intrigued with this class and everything that's going on.
So you mentioned Surratt. We're actually, just quick background, we're all seniors at Syracuse, and week one was UNC against Syracuse.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun last week.
He was flying around
Andre Cisco, baby.
Yeah, okay, we're gonna talk about him.
We will get into Andre Cisco.
All in on him. So kind of the opposite side of that, though. So the underlord guys that you love, is there any prospect that's getting a lot of love from a lot of people, and you watch the tape and you're like, I don't see it, man? You think they're overrated?
See, this is tough because this guy falls into a category of another player who I wish had another year, but he's already gone. Gregory Rousseau. It's got to be him. And I think that this is going to be the top answer no matter who you ask, because this is potential edge one. And like y'all know, edge rushers go high. Even if it's a down edge rush class, you're going to see teams that are desperate for pass rushers go up to make a move for him. So, look, he had a fantastic season last year. You know, he was coming from the edge. He played at the 3-tech. Sometimes they played him at nose. They got funky with him, and I loved it because he is very difficult to block, especially when you put him in the interior on not just stunts, but just aligning them there. His length is super difficult when you're talking about an interior offensive lineman with normally shorter arm length trying to deal with him when he gets to reach on you. And I think that he had the production last year, and everybody points to that. But he is not a refined product. Mm-hmm. And I think that he can be, right? He talked about my colleague over at the Draft Network, Jordan Reed, did an interview with him. And he was saying, like, hey, like, what are your goals now that you've opted out? What are you trying to do? And he's like, well, I'm trying to get a little bigger because he was listed at 240, 245 last season, which is still super light for an edge rusher, even as well built as he is. And he's like, right now I'm at 260 at the combine. I like to be 265. Well, shoot, dude, I'd love to see you play at 265. You know, so like I would like to see what you are like when you were 265. So he would have been a prospect, and he opted out. But, you know, when people mention his name, they think top 10, top 5, all this kind of stuff. When I did my first mock draft a couple of weeks ago, I was like, I got him coming off the board at 16 to Atlanta. And Atlanta needs an edge rusher. They would want to pick him if he's kind of in that range. But I see him going really, really high. And it's just not as much of a sure thing as I think a team in the top 10 would want their edge rusher to be. And so he's the top name that would stand out to me for a question like that.
So we're all familiar with scouting reports. Obviously, every player gets them, and every analyst does it differently. What's the most annoying thing that you see in scouting reports consistently?
Oh, the most annoying thing in scouting reports. I don't know about the most annoying thing, but I'll tell you the hardest thing about the scouting report. And that is you can nail somebody's assessment. Like you could have their abilities pinpoint, I nailed it. I know exactly what this guy could be in the NFL. But the part that we don't get, the tape, when we get the tape, the film, the all that, the stats, all kinds of things, we don't get to talk to these dudes. We don't figure out like who they are. And I say this all the time. When you're drafting prospects, you are drafting people just as much, if not more, than you are players. Because who these dudes are going to be when they become young adults and they start to move from being a student and college life and things being very structured for them to now, okay, yeah, NFL life is pretty structured, but this is still your own life. It's a new city. It's you getting adjusted. It's you having house payments. It's like it's all these kinds of things that you have to deal with. And the stresses of life that everybody goes through, players go through this as well, if not multiplied because of the pressure that's on them and the money that they make and the situation that they're in and all kinds of stuff. And it's so hard to get that part right. And I can't tell you how many times that part of evaluations have, I guess I'll just say, like ruined careers or like taken guys who I thought could be really talented. Ronald Jones is the perfect example for me because the Buccaneers picked Ronald Jones. And I'm not saying he's ruined or a bust. I want to say that right away, right there. But when we scouted Ronald Jones coming out of the draft in 2017, it was 17, right? Or 18? I think it was 18. 17. Which one was it? Now I'm confused. First year, second year, third year. So it was 18? 18.
Yeah.
Final,
18.
Final answer.
Yes,
Final answer.
18.
2018. So when we scouted Ronald Jones,
that's not a trivia question, by the way. Don't worry about
that. Yeah, you're in the clear on Ronald Jones.
If it was, I'm gonna get it. We watched his final year at USC, and we were like, dude, this guy's awesome. He puts his foot in the ground and he goes. He is a home run hitter. It was the exact kind of running back the Bucs needed. The exact kind, to a T, perfect scouting for not only the assessment of the player, but also of the team and what you need. Ronald Jones was one of the youngest players in that draft class. He was 20 years old when he came into the NFL. And he gets to Tampa. He's from Texas, moved over to California, now travels all the way across the country to Tampa. Doesn't know anybody, doesn't have family over there. He's a 20-year-old kid. You're just taking him and you're just plopping him in Tampa. He wasn't ready. He just like wasn't ready from a maturity standpoint. And I don't say this like as any kind of slight to Ronald Jones at all. I'm saying it instead is like, I get it. Yeah, and this is often something that when we watch all the tape, when we analyze what people can do, it's the part that we don't have access to. So we often just kind of like, we just don't really think about it. But in the end, a lot of it matters. And Ronald Jones, look, he looked timid at his job because I think that he was timid in his social life too. In that first year when he was with Tampa Bay. Second year, he was getting his feet wet a little bit, like he was coming into his own. He was understanding what it was like to live as a young adult. And now here in this third year, I mean, he's put on a lot of weight, which has really helped, but he's comfortable. He knows his teammates. He knows his coaches. He knows the area. He is comfortable in his own skin on and off the field. And I think that it shows up in the confidence in the way that he's running now. And so that's what, when, sorry to kind of like pivot the question, but like that's,
no, I like it. Yeah.
That's definitely something with scouting reports that you can read all the scouting reports in the world. But until you sit down with somebody, get to know them, look them in the eye, ask them questions, figure out who they are as a person, you're not going to know the exact guy that you are getting in the draft. And so that's always something that even the best scouting report that you could ever find is going to, at some point outside of if you are an NFL staff, be a little bit incomplete because you don't know exactly what you need to about and that's why background information and stories and where guys come from, that stuff is so important when you're assessing who they could be jumping from college to the NFL.
Like when ESPN showed everyone's trauma last year at the draft. We're going to talk about that.
Oh my, we gotta stop with that, man. Like there is a difference between being inspired by somebody's story and then just emotional pornography. ESPN over here. I get it. It's a lot of tough stories, but it just seemed like every prospect that had a tough story, they were mentioning all their background and stuff like that. And you know what? It's there were a couple instances where I felt like it was over dramatized, and that's what you don't want to insult that part of the players too. And you want to remember where you come from. Athletes talk about that all the time. They talk about putting on for where they came from and like a hometown or a family situation or people who have helped them along the way and all that kind of stuff. And that's great, but you also, I think, have to respect this being the happiest moment of their life on draft night too. So if they're telling these players stories, I really, really hope they ran it by them first, although I don't think that was the case. If they ask him and they're like, hey, we'd love to tell this story of kind of like where you came from on the broadcast. Do you mind? And they're like, yeah, no, go ahead. It's fine. Totally do that. I get it. But yeah, might need to back off that a little bit here into 2021 after 2020. That's all I'm saying.
No, that's a great point, man. I think like a lot of, especially us, especially because we're not interviewing these players one-on-one. So it's like we kind of break them down by numbers, and we're like, they're just a number to us almost. And almost you got to like actually think of them as human beings other than players. So that's a great point. So in your latest mock draft, kind of pivot from that, you have 3 quarterbacks going 1, 2, 3. Lawrence, Fields, Lance. We love talking about them. All 3 of us have a different order of them, though. If that happens, though, that will be the first time since 1999 that QBs went 1, 2, 3 with Tim Couch, Donovan McNabb, and Achilles Smith. What do you like about those 3 quarterbacks, and do you think is an all-time quarterback class?
One, I'm very glad that was not a trivia question because you guys easily could have made that a trivia question, and I would not have known the answer to it. Although I probably should have now that I did the 1, 2, 3 because that's a very intriguing question. I'm glad you guys brought that up. I'll say when it comes to these 3 guys, we'll start at the top. We'll start at Trevor Lawrence. My co-host of the Locked On NFL Draft podcast, Ben Solak, when we were going over the summer scouting series and we were popping Trevor Lawrence on, he put it beautifully. And this is something that I'm going to kind of like carry with me. And I know I'm going to repeat and give him credit for a lot. But when guys aren't draft eligible, when they're true freshmen, when they're true sophomores, or when they're redshirt freshmen, we think they are gods. We think they could not do a thing wrong on the football field. We only look at the highlights and we go, this guy is going to be generational. And then you pop on the film when they are draft eligible and you go, oh, okay, they're good. We like them, but it's probably not as high of a bar because it was an unrealistic bar as what we thought. Trevor Lawrence, love him. The arm talent's awesome. His accomplishments over the last 2 years are fantastic. The throws he makes, and I think this is the part to realize, there are some times when Trevor will read something incorrectly or just the throw will be late or it won't exactly be there. I mean, his good is so far outweighs his bad, but it's the NFL type throws that he's doing. It's him hitting back shoulders, pinpoint in rhythm that you know he's going to have to do multiple times in a game, no matter what his opponents are in the NFL. You know, it's those kind of timing routes and touch deep down the sidelines and deep ball accuracy, all that kinds of stuff that I think Trevor does really well. Now, I don't think he's the perfect prospect. Like I said, there are times when he'll read something incorrectly. He'll believe in his arm maybe more than he should, which, look, guys, if you got that issue in college, you're going to pay for that issue early on in your career in the NFL when the speed gets pumped up. So those are just little things that he's got to remember. So I like Trevor Lawrence a lot. I think he's a fantastic prospect, but he is not the untouchable, golden, greatest prospect of all time kind of player. Justin Fields?
Max
disagree.
Is get on you for that one.
All in, dude. I'm buying every single piece of Trevor Lawrence memorabilia I can get, man.
And that's not to say that he won't be a phenomenal franchise quarterback. You know, like this is a guy that he's gonna go number one in every mock draft you read. And it's as a draft analyst, that's annoying. I hate that. I hate when a guy is that clear-cut good, because I'd love to put somebody else up there. People might get flashy and put Penei Sewell or put Justin Fields, but at the end of the day, it's Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, I think, is going to go number one overall, no matter who's picking at the top. Justin Fields, I'm not gonna lie, I popped on his film and I was more impressed than I thought. The gap between Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence, just from off 2019 tape, is a lot closer than I thought. Fields is not just this RPO zone read, win with his legs kind of quarterback. I mean, like, he will beat you with his arms. And even more than that, I think it's important to credit him that he will beat you with his mind. This is not just an athlete playing quarterback. He knows how to diagnose coverages. He's got the arm to zip it in there. I think that he's smart when it comes to tucking and running and throwing it away. There's still things that he needs to learn. I'm glad that he's going to get another season, especially at the highest level, with Ohio State wanting to compete as much as possible. But I'm telling you, man, I was more impressed with him than I thought. And then Trey Lance, dude should not be playing at North Dakota State. I mean, like, good for North Dakota State for getting him. You know, like, they get to continue the good quarterback lineage there, but he's way far advanced for that level of competition, and him not playing is sort of a bummer, but also, like, he's like Micah Parsons. I don't really care. I've seen what I need to see from Trey Lance. Him playing at the FCS level, I'm not really going to learn anything from. If anything, it's just going to hurt his stock. He's already too good. I wish that there was a reality where we could have seen him against some SEC or some Big Ten or some ACC teams this year, but that's not what it is. So those three guys, boom, 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 I think they all have a chance to go in the top five. Maybe not 1, 2, 3. That was kind of me. The way that I do mock drafts is, I always like to say this, especially this early in the year, it's not as much for accuracy as it is for the what if. You know, like, you're going to read a lot of different mock drafts, and especially as NFL media grows more and more every single year, you've got people wanting to do their own mocks. You know, they'll show you what they think should happen and all that kinds of stuff. And so I leave accuracy for mocks for kind of after the combine. I'll do 3 mocks after the combine between then and draft day. And those are really the ones where I'm like, okay, this is what I'm hearing. This is what I think could happen. But really, until that point, I'm just looking, I'm going, hey, what if this prospect went this early? How would it affect the draft? And what if this guy went to this particular coach? Something like that. And so, do I believe that they'll go 1, 2, 3? I wouldn't bet on it. You know, like, I would still say that is the underdog possibility, but I think that it's interesting. And then towards the rest of the quarterback class, I got to say this too. After these 3, who is there?
Yeah.
A
lot of question marks.
Who do we
have?
have? I mean, like, Kyle Trask. I don't think Brock Purdy has the arm strength to win in the NFL. I really don't. And I was really discouraged by his week 1 performance. I don't want to go too hard on it because it was week 1, but
it was bad.
I mean,
it was bad.
It was bad. Jamie Newman, I know people were excited about him going into the season, but I mean, like, even Jamie Newman, he had flashes. I was excited about him. I like him as a quarterback, but people were talking about Jamie Newman going to the first round. I'm like, you're out of your mind right now. No, that's not happening. Kyle Trask has to take a leap in terms of consistency. I like his touch. I like how he can assess the field, but I feel like he's too robotic at times, and when you're too robotic in the NFL, you'll get eaten alive. And so Desmond Ritter's got a nice arm. I'm not a big Tanner Morgan guy. Kellen Mond, I'm still out on. Sam Ehlinger's, I think, fun, but I think that's the best adjective I could say with him. He's better as a passer this past week, but this is the quarterback class. And if you do not get one of these 3 guys, and that was another reason why I put them 1, 2, 3 to start the draft, if you need a quarterback, you might be straight out of luck. And so we might see some desperation for one of these top 3 guys when April rolls around.
Well, you mentioned that it's more of a what if thing at this point, and I am a New York Jets fan, and there's already conjecture about are we quitting on Sam Darnold? Are we picking Trevor Lawrence? I mean, that lasted at least like one drive on Sunday before Trevor Lawrence got thrown out on Twitter. And I'm of the belief, I think Sam's a really good quarterback. I'll defend him until the day that I die. But if the New York Jets are picking first, they're picking Trevor Lawrence, right?
Yeah, right.
Like that's how this is going to go.
I like Sam. I think that Sam is a good quarterback, but someone asked me, and I do this kind of like halftime ask me anything thing on Sundays during game days, and one of the questions was like, are the Jets basically going to move on from Darnold, and is Darnold salvageable? And I think the problem with that question is, as long as Gase is there, we're not going to know the answer. And so if you get to the point where Gase has this team picking in the top 5, not only do I think that they're going to move on from Gase, Douglas is also probably going to want to give whoever is going to be the new head coach their pick at quarterback. Because if you're picking in the top 5 and you got a chance to get one of these top 3 guys, would you rather do that? Or would you rather set up your quarterback to, or head coach to potentially be in a year where it's like, okay, this guy's going into the next 5th year of his contract? Do we sign him to a mega deal after this? I mean, like, that's a bad spot. And so for us to really find out whether or not Darnold is going to be good, and I'm sorry, PJ, but like I'm out on the Jets this year, so like I just
you and everyone. That's fine.
I'm kind of like writing him off at this point. But for Darnold, we're not really going to know the answer to like how good he could be until he's out of New York. And I just, when I look at what I think this season is going to be and seeing how I really think the Jets are going to struggle, even if they bring in a new coach, it would be hard for me to envision a reality where they are comfortable with keeping Darnold as opposed to picking a quarterback in the top 5. So that's kind of where I am on the Jets.
Yeah, and it's even like you wrote an Allen Robinson article this week that made the rounds on Jets Twitter because the Jets were not in it.
Yeah.
And I agree with that.
They weren't happy with me.
Yeah, I agree with you because why would Allen Robinson, a 27-year-old who's had crappy quarterbacks his entire life, sign an extension with the Jets? You're going to have a new coach, probably a new quarterback, and everything's going up in smoke. Why would you ever want to come here?
And I also think that from the Jets' perspective, from Joe Douglas's perspective, Allen Robinson is like a good player, and obviously you would like Allen Robinson, but there's too much volatility in like what your team could look like. Because if you're in like a really weird, sticky situation, you don't want to get to like year 1 or year 2 of Allen Robinson's extension with you basically being a waste, and then all of a sudden like it's the 3rd year and you only have with them. And so I was saying it also from the Jets' perspective. It does not make sense for the Jets to give up draft capital just to then sign an extension for Allen Robinson as probably one of the somewhat higher paid wide receivers in the NFL, to have no idea where you're actually playing him. You don't even know who his quarterback's going to be in 2021. So I just think from that perspective, that's why the Jets didn't make that list. Jets would be number 1 on my teams that need a wide receiver kind of list, but it just didn't make sense for me. They're in a weird situation this year.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But we can pivot off of that. You just mentioned Kyle Trask. You're a Florida guy.
Yeah.
After Jamie Newman opted out, you put out a tweet, picture Kyle Trask, your SEC East Division champion. I responded with your national champion because they are now my pick to win a national championship. I truly do believe the Florida Gators party like it's 2008. Kyle Trask is currently my QB4. What are your expectations for Florida this year?
They're bringing back basically, I mean, everybody that they would have thought that they'd be bringing back. They didn't have anybody opting out. Trask is there. Kyle Pitts is there. Kyle Pitts is there. Kadarius Toney is there. Jacob Copeland is there. The offensive line, you hope, is a lot better. They've got a solid stable of running backs. You know, if Lingard can be what they want him to be and be eligible. They also are bringing in Justin Shorter, who's a former 5-star wide receiver, just got the waiver. Sorry. Come on. Florida's just, I don't know how this happened, but just like Florida's poaching the Big Tens for receivers. Like they got Trayvon Grimes and they got Justin Shorter. I don't know how that happened. But on the defensive side of the ball, I think that it's important to think about the experience that they have on the secondary. I think they're going to, still figuring out who's going to dominate for them within the tackles. They need some guys to step up, and I think that's really important to what you were saying there, PJ, a national championship team. They've got to get that figured out. Some younger guys would really have to play above expectations, but having Marco Wilson on the outside, having Kaiir Elam, having Trey Dean, Sean Davis is a safety who I really like, who took way more of a leap last year than I thought that he was going to. Sean Davis kind of came into school, and I was like, oh, yeah, cool, safety with dreads. Like, I'm in. Just like, I was just, I'm in. That's the mold that I love. And he was a big hitter, but he was a skinny dude. Last year, he put on a ton of weight, and he made some really nice plays, better than I expected him to. And so Florida's going to be a strong team. I honestly, no bias there. I think they're a better team than Georgia. I think this is their year. I think Dan Mullen's got them really focused because they understand that. I do think they win the East. It's going to be a tough challenge against Alabama, but I do think that unlike the years that they went under McElwain, they went to back-to-back SEC championship games. There was no choice. There was no chance. They were never, ever, ever beating Alabama in those 2 years. They really have a chance to beat Alabama this year if they meet in the SEC championship. And so, given the Big Ten is playing a shortened season, and with everything that's going on, even if Florida's only loss is to Alabama in the SEC championship game, I think Florida gets in. I think Florida's going to be a college football playoff team. And so that's really crazy for me to say out loud, but the stars seem to be aligning for Florida. So I cannot wait to be deeply disappointed as always.
That's fair. That's fair.
So we always like to ask our guests this question. Way back in the spring, we did our own combine. We did a couple of events. We had varying results, I think, would be an accurate way to summarize. We had a 5.1 40, and we had up to like a 6.4 something, I think.
It was 6.7. You ran a 6.7, Tate.
Yeah. Oh yeah, right. I ran the 6.7. Right. We had we did a long throw to see who could throw a football the longest. Not a combine event, but we just want to see for content. Right. We had a 47-yard throw, a high 20s, and then a 19-yard throw.
Very infamous.
19 yards on a long throw for a football. You can take your guess if you want, but who did that?
Have him guess. I want to do this again because I'm so pissed off.
So who of us threw the football only 19 yards?
Well, I wish I would have not heard the reaction, because I'm going to say PJ because of how he reacted to the 19 yards.
Oh, no,
finally,
not at all.
Finally somebody.
Not at all.
It was Max. Max threw the football.
I'm a baseball player through and
You
through.
threw it 19 yards?
I'm a baseball player.
Dude, you're wearing the quarter zip. You can't be throwing it 19 yards wearing a quarter. Take that off, dude.
Stolen valor. Sorely stolen valor.
Every guest we've had on says PJ looks more athletic than me. I'm like, dude, Four Eyes does not look more athletic than I do. Okay.
No.
I'm less athletic than he is. I will admit that, but I don't look less athletic than he is.
It's clearly a sore point.
That's, you threw me off, dude. I thought that you were the top tier athlete on this podcast with you wearing the quarter zip. So there you go.
That is the first time that's ever happened. We're just going to clip that and save it forever.
Yeah, Max is going to watch that over and over again for the rest of his life.
You just made Max's day.
So getting back on track. So what do you think if you did these events? We did the 40, the broad jump, the 3-cone, and then a long throw. What would you do? How would you perform if you did those events?
So we at the Draft Network did a combine before the 2019 NFL draft. So this would have been almost a year and a half ago. And I had not trained for it at all whatsoever. The 40, I think I ran in like a 5.2, which is garbage.
Okay.
I had higher aspirations for myself. I'm sorry. The one that I had the most confidence in that I actually did decently well in is the 3-cone. I cannot remember what my time was, but like I was flying around the early parts of the 3-cone. So if I had to boast my skills in one of these combine events, it would probably be either the 3-cone or
how far can you throw a football? That's really the question.
I was gonna say, who threw it? What is it? 40? What did you get?
47.
Tate, did you throw a 47?
Tate's got a cannon.
Tate's got a cannon. Tate's the athlete here. He's like 6'4". You can't see it, but he's 6'4".
I was gonna say. I was like, you gotta be tall, right? Okay.
Yeah.
There's no way I'd beat 47. I could probably throw it from like 30, 35. Maybe I'm underselling myself, but I would say like 30, 35. However, if I can modify these events, if we have a field goal kicking competition, I'm going to win it.
We should do that. That's a good idea.
We should do that. That's
there are clips out there somewhere of when the Bucks were going through their kicker debacle. Which one? Yeah. I get it, guys. You're hilarious.
He's doing the jokes for us.
I was just about to still go with. I already win one now, but he did it for me.
I believe it was like 2017, although, like I say, I probably used this clip a couple of times. It was when Roberto Aguayo was really, really struggling. So I can't remember if that was 2017 or 2018 because it was probably one and the same. But I was covering the Buccaneers at the time for Pewter Report, and when nobody could make a dang kick, I just tweeted out videos of me nailing a 35, just like piping a 35-yarder. I was just so like, good. I was just like, call me. Like, y'all got my number. Like, y'all, like, the main account follows me on Twitter. Hit me in the DMs. Look, all you got to do, sign me to a 10-day contract. Mm-hmm. That's all I need. And I can quit my job because of the money that I'm going to make on the 10-day contract. I'm just going to quit my job. I'm just going to become a stockbroker full-time with that money. And we're just going to, change life courses there. But it has not happened yet. Still waiting for it.
We need a kickoff between you and PFT. Mr. 30 yards.
What was so 30 yards. That was I can't remember. I watched the video so long ago. Did he actually look good on the 30, yards, or did he just toe it in and he make it?
No, he was pretty good. He was pretty good.
Right. He was okay.
So you said pipe 35. Can you hit 40, 45, you think, or 35 is the absolute max?
I've hit 40 a couple of times before. I've never hit 45.
Okay.
45 is like a bomb.
That's
the few times that and it's few, it's probably like 2 times that I've even been able to get it to the goalpost, like over the goalpost, it's been left or right. And so like I've never actually made a 45-yard field goal. No.
Okay, so final question before draft trivia. So we did some research, found out that the preseason QB1 hasn't actually been the first quarterback taken since at least 2015 with Winston, maybe even 2012 with Luck. As we mentioned before, I am all in on Trevor Lawrence, not only to be the first quarterback, but number 1 overall pick. So we have a bet with our followers, subscribers, and our guests now that if he's not the first pick, I'll drink a smoothie of ingredients of anyone's choosing. Austin Gale has contributed absinthe from PFF. Mike Renner has.
This has gone off the rails.
It's off the rails. Malort's, which is a horrible brand of Chicago liquor, I'm not eager to try. Okay. And your buddy John said a couple eggs in there. What would you like to contribute, Trevor, to the smoothie right now?
I just want to say I watched my friend, who is a bit of a meathead, just crack 6 eggs into a blender, blend it up, and just hammer that one time. And I nearly gagged for him. And it was right before we were about to go work out. So he's like, all right, I'm ready to go. I got the protein in.
Now, there's like a real chance if Max has to do this that like there will be video of him immediately vomiting and then me off camera also doing so.
The cameraman is vomiting.
The cameraman is just also going to
go down to the feet. And
almost a guarantee.
Okay, so what was so John's was eggs.
And we got
2 other liquids, right? Is that what you said?
Yes, 2 other liquids too.
Oh man, I feel like, you know what? I'm gonna go Old Bay seasoning.
Oh, I like Old Bay.
I'm in it.
Oh,
I'm gonna go Old Bay seasoning because you went 2 liquids, a somewhat liquid solid, and I thought about throwing fish in there because I was like, oh, Tampa seafood. I'm gonna get a little bit local in there. I'm gonna throw some fish in you, but I didn't want to. I'll go with Old Bay. I think Old Bay is a better one here.
That's fair. I like Old Bay too. So we'll see how it tastes. Yeah, okay, so now what everyone's
you've all been waiting for.
Draft trivia, baby. So the deal is you score 3 out of 5, Trevor. We'll rename our Twitter account to Boom or Bust, the Trevor Sikkema
the highest honor in the world.
For a whole week. Whole week.
All right. Now this is where I'm gonna throw a little bit of shade at John here.
Go for it.
Please.
Because John got 3 correct.
John did get 3.
But y'all gave him like 8 minutes to get Vernon Hargrave's name on the first question. I'm out here screaming Vernon Hargrave's name when I'm watching this podcast, and y'all just let him sit there
we just let him work through it. We just let him work through it.
We'll give you time too. Also, we'll send you some merch if we ever drop it. Look, Trevor. So John, like as we mentioned, Mike and Austin all got 3 out of 5. John said you're going to score 2 out of 5 unless you cheat. How do you respond to those allegations?
I mean, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. I agree
with that. I agree with that.
Google. I got a Google type machine for y'all's voice right in the corner of my screen. No, I'm kidding. I don't.
Oh boy.
Phone. Okay, phone is right here because I heard him say that.
I believe. Listen,
so,
I trust you.
We'll put trust in you. We'll put trust in you.
I'm not worried. All right. So number one. There we go. Yeah. Drop the phone. Number one. Name the last quarterback who went number 1 overall to win a Super Bowl. He was the starting quarterback of a team that won the Super Bowl. Last number 1 overall pick. Starting quarterback to win a Super Bowl.
I feel like this should be easier than I am making it.
It's like sneaky hard.
It's sneaky hard? Okay.
It's been a while. There's your hint.
Was it in the 2000s or was it before that?
No, the 2000s.
2000s.
We'll give you that.
Okay, so
no more hints. No more hints.
I thought John asked for every hint possible too.
As a starting quarterback, right?
Yes.
Correct.
That went number 1 overall. Okay, who won it in the 2000s? Brady, Bucks, Ravens. Oh, no. Patriots. Steelers is Roethlisberger, so that's not it. Damn. I don't know. You
don't throw a guess?
I'm trying to think of quarterbacks who went number 1 overall.
That's the way to do it. They threw this at me right when I woke up this morning, and I started going through quarterbacks that went number 1. I went backwards.
Alex Smith, Jamarcus Russell, LOL. Sam Bradford, Matt Stafford. Oh, Eli.
Eli Manning, 1 for 1.
I'm sitting here. I'm like Roethlisberger, but
right when you said that, I was like, oh my God,
Giants.
Right there.
I'm like the Giants, you idiot. Yeah. So all right, Eli Manning.
Eli Manning.
Nice.
All
right, halfway to it. Suck it, John.
So staying on that trend, can you name the last number 1 overall pick to win a Super Bowl?
To win a Super Bowl.
He also was a starter. He actually played.
Yeah.
Is Derek Fisher?
Oh my God.
2 for 2. I got a barn burner going.
Okay.
My other guess would have been Chris Long with the Eagles.
Yeah.
Wait, no. Or did he go 2?
Went number 2.
Oh, he went number 2.
He went number 2.
Yeah. I thought about Chris Long, and I was like, all right, Eric Fisher. There we go.
John's on the hot seat already.
He's sweating, baby. We love to see it.
Okay, so to go 3 for 3, nobody's ever started 3 for. I don't even think anybody's ever started 2 for 2 before.
No.
So you're playing with house money as it is here.
Okay. All right.
My New York Jets took a player from your Florida Gators in the 3rd round of the 2019 draft. Who was it?
It was Ja'Kai Polite.
It was Ja'Kai Polite.
Cut him 4 months later.
Brutal.
So Ja'Kai, I will just say this.
That's another scouting report guy who he knew was kind of crazy, but not that crazy.
Man. Like Ja'Kai Polite had the biggest hype behind him because he had some tape and some flashes that were freaky. And then he got up there for that podium interview at the Combine, and Y'all, I was 3 feet away from that interview when it was happening, and I was like, what is going on? And from that moment forward, it was like, hey, Ja'Kai Polite went from a potential top 15 pick to maybe not a first-round pick, okay, not a second-round pick. Good God, he fell to the 3rd round. Now he's cut.
Yeah, didn't he add like a ton of weight too during the pre-draft process too?
Yeah, it was...
Like really slow.
I don't know exactly what happened with Ja'Kai, but he once he left Florida, he clearly did not take that part nearly as seriously. He just thought, oh, I've made it. I declare for the draft. It's over. I put the tape out there, and it's a whole process.
He's a Ram now, right?
He did. So. He had a big pressure on a 3rd down the other night, and that was another thing. I got a lot of Ja'Kai Polite texts. On national television, that guy making a play.
Not many people out there that are able to say the sentence, I got a lot of Ja'Kai Polite text.
Yeah. No.
I hope he's a superstar. I hope he's a superstar just to screw PJ. So Trevor, you're 3 for 3, man.
3 for 3. You got to get one more.
This is the record. Like you're going for the record right now.
Ledyard hates to see it.
This is awful. He's gonna be so pissed.
He's beating the air right now.
Yeah. So you're a big Tampa Bay Lightning fan. As I mentioned before, they won the Eastern Conference Championship last night, looking to win their 2nd Stanley Cup against the Dallas Stars soon. Their first time hoisting the cup was in 03-04. What team did they beat in that series?
Jerome McGinley's Calgary Flames, baby.
There it is.
4 for 4.
There it is.
He's 4 for 4.
I can even tell you who the goalie was, too. Mikhail Kiprusoff.
Trevor, I gotta be honest with you, man. John made you out as like the biggest idiot in the world. It's like
he always does. He always does. He always does, man.
Boy,
he always does. There's a clipped moment. I gotta send it to you guys after the show where I was in on Devin Bush before John was, back when we were doing the podcast together. And ironic enough, Devin Bush actually got drafted by his Pittsburgh Steelers. But I was in on Devin Bush before he was. He was like, nah, he's too slow. Like, I don't think he's really as good as he needs to be in coverage. He's not going to be a good linebacker. I was like, nah, man, he's got that hidden athleticism. He's a momentum runner. It's not like foot in the dirt, immediate, like 0 to 60, but like he'll get up there, and I like the top speed. There's a clip of us doing a live feed where somebody said something about Devin Bush, and I was like, I like Devin Bush, like I'm big on his blah, blah, blah. And John goes, yeah, you're right about him. And I literally like stop the podcast. I look around and I tell the chat to clip it and whatever. So I got to get it to you. So that's just,
If you get that to me, I will put it right in right here. I will put it right in right here.
John making me out to be the biggest idiot is, that's not very on brand for us.
All right. So can you go 5 for 5 is now the question.
Yeah. I mean,
this is a big deal.
Here's a big moment in draft trivia here on Boomer Bust. The potential to go 5 or 5. I'm going to make the question a little harder here. I'm going to take away a word or so. Okay. So in your most recent mock draft, you have the Cowboys taking this player at 26 overall.
Syracuse grade, Andre Cisco.
Oh my, he's done it.
He's done it.
Hey, you stuck it, Trevor. You stuck it.
Oh, wow.
Andre Cisco, baby.
Yeah, we could not talk about him. So go. Give us your Andre Cisco spiel, because we've got plenty.
I really like Andre Cisco. I mean, like, he's got the build for what you would want for somebody who could really help out in run support. He's got a ton of range on the back end, 13 interceptions in 23 games. I mean, like that, as much as I am, hey, you got to look past the box score kind of a guy. I mean, for a player that takes the ball away that frequently, and that's not even counting the 2 forced fumbles that he's had, one in 2018, 2019. So, look, he's not going to be for every defensive coordinator. Like, some defensive coordinators are not going to want to put him single high. They're not going to want him to be that aggressive. They're not going to. Some defensive coordinators are like, hey, we play, 2-man, or we play 2 high, however you're doing it. And we have our safeties be on the back end. They're accountability guys. They're not letting anything get past them, which Cisco can do that as well. But if you allow him to play with his momentum forward, to keep his eyes going in front of him, to play that robber role especially, which I love, as a strong safety who kind of stays in the middle and is able to read what's going on over the middle of the field with tight ends and slot receivers. This dude's going to hunt. He's going to hunt the football, which we know he's got great ball skills to do, and I think he can lay the wood on some people too. And so I really hope that when Cisco gets in the NFL, wherever it is, which Dallas would be a fantastic spot, by the way, wherever he goes, I don't want him to, this is kind of a duh, but like, I don't want him to fail right away. And then all of a sudden, like, the coach that he has is like, okay, we clearly can't play that style with you. it's got to be somebody who understands Cisco. And I really do believe he was my number one safety out of summer scouting. He's my safety one going into the season. And so I have a lot of high hopes for Andre Cisco because of, look, man, in 2020, the name of the game on defense, it's not yards anymore. It's bend or don't break. And it's take away the football. Get your offense the extra possession or two in the game. That's what's going to do it. That's what's going to win you the game here in 2020 because offenses are too good. You've just got to get guys that can hunt the ball when it's in the air, and Andre Cisco is one of them.
And he's already off to a good start with that.
5 for 5.
Got one on Howell.
He's gone
5 for 5.
Unbelievable.
This is great.
So, Trevor, before we let you go, I got to talk about this, man. John on our show said that you cannot do 40 push-ups consecutively. Now, we're asking you, if you want to send us in a video or do it whenever and send us to it, can you prove that John is wrong? Like you proved him wrong by getting 5 out of 5?
First of all, I just went 5 for 5. I don't gotta prove jack squat to anybody out there named Jon Ledyard. Okay, I ain't gotta prove that to anybody. Yeah, absolutely. I can do 40 push-ups in a row. If y'all want a video, I will send you guys a video. Not going to do it right now because I actually did push-ups this morning. You know, humble brag.
Yeah,
we'll get you that video evidence at some point.
Awesome. All right, we'll take that.
And then also, we always do this again. Do you want to call out anyone to try and come on and beat your perfect score or even tie your perfect score?
You can't beat it. You're number one here.
Yeah, no, guys, you know, it feels great knowing that I'm exiting this podcast, knowing that no one can beat me at any point throughout the history of this wonderful pod. I'll say, since John nominated me as his old co-host, I'll go with my current co-host. I'll go with Benjamin Solak. I love Ben. He's an energetic dude. He'll talk for days, so hopefully you guys are ready for a longer podcast. But the best part of it is Ben and I will do a lot of mock draft Monday formats on our Locked On NFL Draft podcast, and you know, it's not just like current mock drafts that we do. Sometimes we'll draft, for example, we drafted first round picks from 1999 to 2000. So like we had to form a full roster offensive defense based off of only first round picks from each of those seasons to get to 22. And there gets to a point where Ben and I just start sweating. Like if you like, we're just like, we're trying to keep the podcast going, but we don't know who to pick. And so I'm very excited to see Ben in a trivia type format. So I think that would be fun if you guys could get him on the pod.
Oh, we'll love to get Ben Solak on the pod. Trevor, thanks so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
Of course, guys. Like I said, I was really looking forward to it. It did not disappoint. It was awesome chatting ball with you guys anytime.
Absolutely. So check him out on Twitter at Tampa Bay Trey. Hopefully his Lightning hoist that Stanley Cup for the second time. Also follow our Twitter at Boom or Bust Draft. For PJ Clark and Tate Sigworth, I'm Max Chadwick. Have a great night.